The Boston Red Sox have acquired starting pitcher Sonny Gray, but that move alone is not enough to put the rotation over the top.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm your host, Gabby Maljanian, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part, it's all free. So make sure you tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Happy Monday. Welcome to the show. Happy December. Happy almost winter meetings. Hope you had a wonderful holiday weekend. I know I did. I had a nice, relaxing vacation week spent in North Carolina with my parents who just moved there a few months ago. So definitely nice and relaxing. And the Red Sox obviously made a big trade in my absence. I'm going to be discussing everything related to that trade on today's show, what the Red Sox are actually getting in the player they received, what they gave up in this trade, and what this all could mean for the Red Sox starting rotation in 2026. So Sonny Gray is the player that the Red Sox traded for. Now, we knew going into this offseason that starting pitching was a huge priority for the Boston Red Sox and arguably the biggest need going into the offseason. Sonny Gray was the Cardinals' ace. So this is a guy who is going to help bolster the Red Sox rotation. Now, what exactly did the Red Sox get? So essentially in this trade, the Red Sox got right-handed pitcher Sonny Gray and cash considerations, and the Cardinals received left-handed pitcher Brandon Clarke, right-handed pitcher Richard Fitz, a player to be named later, or cash. So that is essentially what the trade in full looks like. And I'll explain those two pitchers that the Red Sox gave up a little bit later, but they received Sonny Gray, a pitcher who had a good season in 2025. And something that's very notable about this trade is the cash part of that. So essentially, he had a no trade clause and he had to waive his no trade clause for this deal to be able to cross the finish line. So essentially, he approved a trade to Boston, which really shows that he's interested in playing here. Because if he had a no trade clause and he said, yeah, I'm willing to waive that to go to the Boston Red Sox, that means that's a team that he's actually interested in pitching for, which means you have to be excited about it. It's hard not to be. So hopefully the fact that he's that excited to be here reflects in his game in 2026. So notably in this trade, St. Louis is sending the Red Sox $20 million to cover part of Gray's salary for 2026 and the buyout of his $30 million club option for 2027. So $20 million is a lot of money, and it's even more significant because upon completion of the trade, and presumably for CBT reasons, the Red Sox and Gray negotiated his $35 million salary for the 2026 season to $31 million, while increasing the buyout of his option from $5 million to $10 million. So essentially, he's going to be getting more money over the next two seasons than he would have before. He's just getting the money a little bit later than he otherwise would have. So that's essentially what the difference is there. So the Red Sox are essentially only paying him $11 million for 2026 because of the $20 million that they're getting from the Cardinals, and then that $10 million buyout for 2027, but they do have a club option, and he also has the ability to opt out of the option if the Red Sox exercise it. So a lot of things are dependent on 2026 and how he performs. But the good news about him is that he's a guy who has pitched in the front of rotations before. And Craig Breslow was talking about it a little bit and said, when you think about what Sonny has been in this league, he's a guy who has pitched in the front of rotations. And those things that pitchers carry from year to year are strikeout rates and walk rates and the ability to stay off barrels. And he excels there. So we're really excited about a guy who is coming off back-to-back 200 strikeout seasons while shouldering significant workloads. So the Red Sox are definitely continuing to look for forward progress in 2026, and they believe that Sonny Gray is somebody who could help them with that. So Breslow also said he was very clear about his desire to win and his excitement about this opportunity. So he's very excited to come to Boston, and we're excited to have him. So he's definitely excited about the idea of pitching for a team that has a good shot, that went to the playoffs in 2025 and wants to continue to go deeper into the playoffs and continue to add to a team that hopefully is going to have a good balance of veterans and young talent going into 2026. And he's a veteran who can help that starting rotation. He can help a lot of the younger players, can mentor young players in this rotation, like Hunter Dobbins or Connolly Early, for example, guys who are on the younger side. He can help those types of players out. The 36-year-old is coming off a solid season for the Cardinals in which he logged 32 starts in 180 and 2/3 innings to go along with a 14-8 record, a 4.28 ERA, and 201 strikeouts. He also led the National League with a 5.29 strikeout to walk ratio, which is very impressive. And Craig Breslow does value swing and miss stuff. And that's something that Sonny Gray will provide, is that ability to get those strikeouts, which is huge for the rotation. In his mid-30s, he has absolutely thrived. In 2023, while pitching for the Twins, he finished second behind Yankees ace Garrett Cole in the race for the American League's Cy Young Award. And Breslow said, Sonny, he's got a pretty significant track record of not only performance and consistency, but of shouldering a pretty significant workload. I think 2 out of the last 3 years, he's thrown 180 plus innings with what I would call impeccable command. This guy's sitting on a 5% walk rate for each of the last 2 years. And so there's not just the 200 strikeouts and swing and miss, but there's also limiting free passes as well. So that is notable because obviously the command is something that's very much there with him, and he gets the strikeouts. And the Red Sox have had situations where their starters get into trouble with walking too many guys, and then it causes them to not pitch as deep into games as the Red Sox would like. But Sonny Gray has shown that he can handle the workload, which is promising, and he has shown that he has the capability to pitch deep into games. So that's all good, but his age is definitely a concern, and he did get hit over the course of the 2025 season. He had a whip of 1.23, which stands for walks and hits plus innings pitched. So essentially what that means is how many walks and hits you're giving up over the course of a start. So he was getting hit, giving up a lot of hits. His ERA went from a 3.84 in 2024 to a 4.28 in 2025. So that's definitely something to be a little bit wary of, is the fact that he was getting hit. But he was in the 93rd percentile in walk rate and 79th percentile in strikeout rate, which is very promising, and the 81st percentile in chase percentage. So he's fooling guys and getting them to swing at pitches outside the zone, which is something he'll continue to excel in. One thing I am concerned about is that he was only in the 16th percentile in fastball velo, averaging 92 miles an hour on that pitch. So that's a pitch that very much could get hit unless he increases that velocity a little bit going into the 2026 season. So that's something that I am a little bit concerned about when it comes to him. And one of my first thoughts with Sonny Gray was, wow, is he going to be basically Walker Buehler 2.0? And Craig Breslow talked about that and why he's not Walker Buehler. Because when the Red Sox brought in Walker Buehler, they signed him to a 1-year, $20 million-ish deal, who basically ended up being a bust and was released by the Red Sox. So obviously we don't want that here, but Craig Breslow feels confident that Sonny Gray will not be Walker Buehler 2.0. With his advanced age, there's cause for concern with Gray, no doubt, but they are two completely different pitchers, and their arrivals in Boston aren't as comparable as a lot of people assume. So Craig Breslow actually acknowledged this comparison recently. He said, obviously, we had Walker here last year. I don't think anyone would say that it worked out as well as we had hoped. But Sonny, he's got a pretty significant track record of not only performance and consistency, but of shouldering a pretty significant workload. I think 2 out of the last 3 years, he's thrown 180 plus innings with what I would call impeccable command, which I mentioned earlier. I think they're fairly different, and we obviously made decisions in each of those cases to go forward with the players, and hopefully the Sonny acquisition works out. So obviously there's no guarantee that anything's going to work out, but he feels more confident in him than he did in Buehler because of the fact that he has that command under control, which isn't necessarily something that Buehler had, and he's shown that ability to pitch deeper into games, whereas Buehler struggled a lot with that in 2025. So they are really excited about Sonny Gray. Durability is the massive difference there between him and Buehler. Gray hasn't pitched less than 166 innings in any of the last 3 seasons. And Buehler also came to the Red Sox following multiple years of injuries. He did step up big time in the 2024 World Series for the Dodgers, which did a lot to mask his inconsistency over the past few years in the eyes of free agent suitors a month or 2 later. So the Red Sox obviously were fooled by the fact that he looked so good during that playoff run for the Dodgers, and I think they were hoping they would get that version of him. But the Red Sox feel more confident in Sonny Gray's ability to give them more of what they need. He comes to the Red Sox with a much better track record for durability and consistency, and that's basically why it's hard to compare the two. But it's definitely very exciting to think about this because I truly do feel like Sonny Gray is somebody who will help boost the Red Sox rotation. He's a guy who the Red Sox feel are going to give them a lot of what they need. And in summary, he'll get a lot of swing and miss stuff, and he'll not issue a lot of walks. My main concern, though, is that he did get hit, especially on that fastball. So he does have to increase that fastball velocity. Now, the Red Sox should definitely plan to make another starting pitching move. Why? Because acquiring Sonny Gray doesn't exactly move the needle as much as you would like it to. And we can't feel as confident as we would want to, and I'm going to be explaining more about that later. But coming up next, who did the Red Sox actually give up in this trade? If you're a fan of sports betting or you're just now looking to get into it, be sure to tune in to all of our Locked On shows because they will continue to talk about FanDuel and why it's so great, because it truly is. It truly is. It's a great way to bet on a lot of different sports and make a lot of money while doing it. You can actually also place bets while the action is unfolding. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlight moment. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast and so can you. I highly recommend it. You can win lots of money while doing it, especially if you bet on the Celtics to cover the spread. So the Boston Red Sox are in a crucial part of the offseason right now to where they need to continue to make some moves. They made a trade. They acquired a starting pitcher who they feel confident in, can provide a lot of value for this team heading into 2026. But they need to do more because they still have more work that needs to be done. And what they're going to do next remains a mystery still, but the Red Sox gave up 2 pitchers in order to acquire Sonny Gray. Now, those 2 pitchers were Richard Fitts and Brandon Clarke. So, Clarke, his first full professional season was limited to 38 innings due to blister problems, and he was the number 5 ranked prospect in the Red Sox system. He now landed at number 7 in the Cardinals system. So obviously that's a pretty significant loss that the Red Sox gave up one of their top pitching prospects. But the thing is, you have to give up depth in order to acquire win now type of pieces. And the Red Sox have said multiple times over and over again that they feel like they are in a win now window right now. And so because of that, they are making moves that they feel are win now type of moves. In order to acquire players that can help your team now, you need to trade from depth. And the Red Sox feel confident in the starting pitching depth that they have to where they felt comfortable enough parting ways with Brandon Clarke. Now, the interesting thing about Clarke is that he's only 22 years old and he has the potential to be a frontline starter. There's a lot of excitement and optimism surrounding him, but he still lacks the polish of a proven professional. His fastball typically sits at 95 to 98 miles per hour and occasionally reaches 100, which is awesome. And scouts have seen him unveil a devastating slider that ranges between 88 to 91 miles an hour and features a huge sweep with depth that gives hitters fits. So he obviously has an impressive arsenal, which is something that could play for him at the major league level, especially if he continues to move successfully through the minors. He definitely has a lot of things that he can offer, but because he's not exactly polished yet, and he was only in high A in 2025, it's really hard to know if a pitcher who's that young is going to pan out. He was dealing with finger blisters for some of the 2025 season, but he is now over that and ready to go for spring training. So there's a lot to be excited about with him, but with the Boston Red Sox, because of the fact that he was only in high A, he was still working through some things. The Red Sox felt like they were comfortable enough to move on from him. He's only pitched 38 innings in pro ball. He's a 6'4" lefty with fastballs that touch triple digits. And obviously that's hard to find, especially with his athleticism and a potentially double plus secondary pitch. But you have to give to get in this league. He's a Virginia native who grew up a Red Sox fan, which is pretty sad that he's now parting ways with the Red Sox organization since that was his favorite team growing up. But he could make a massive leap in 2026 if he answers some of his biggest questions. He could rise into the top 100 prospects as one of the better left-handed pitching prospects in the game. So that's really exciting for him. So he definitely has things that he can work on that'll help him grow. When he has been healthy, though, he has struggled with his control. He issued 27 walks over 38 frames, including an alarming 18.1% walk rate at high A, and he only threw strikes 56.8% of the time, putting him in the 6th percentile of minor leaguers in full season ball. So that's obviously tough, and that's a concern that the Cardinals are going to have to keep an eye on. But he has the athleticism to approach average control in the future. He just hasn't manifested that exactly yet. So still things for him to work on, and that's what the Red Sox are losing in him. But it was a pitcher that they were comfortable parting ways with because of the fact that they have a lot of pitching depth in their system. And it was a similar process when it came to Richard Fitts, who obviously has gotten some time in the majors and showed some impressive stuff for the Red Sox, but also had his struggles and his injuries. So going into the 2026 season, when I was thinking about the Red Sox roster, it was hard to find and picture an exact fit for Fitts. Where exactly would he fall into the Red Sox rotation or bullpen if he were to get a chance? Would he even pitch in the rotation? Or would the Red Sox feel like he's a guy who was better off in the pen? That was a question that still was to be answered, but now they won't have to answer it because they moved on from him. 25 years old and will likely move into a Cardinals starting rotation that will include Matthew Liberatore, Michael McGreevy, Andre Palante, and Kyle Leahy in 2026. The 6'3", 230-pound Fitts reached the big leagues in 2024, posting a really good 1.74 ERA over 4 starts. In 2025, his average fastball velocity of 95.7 miles per hour would have ranked in Major League Baseball's 72nd percentile had he pitched enough innings to qualify. So obviously he has a fastball that plays. Fitz definitely has some standout qualities about him that made him successful, but my worry with him was, for one, health. Was he going to be able to stay on the field? And for two, consistency, because while he did have some really good outings, he also had some outings in which he really struggled. So because of that, the Red Sox felt confident enough in moving on from him, because he was a guy that they didn't necessarily see be part of the future, which is understandable, because when the Red Sox have all this pitching depth that they have, you want to be able to field the best guys and put the best pitchers out there. And if the Red Sox didn't necessarily feel like Fitz was among the best pitchers on the team, it makes sense naturally to look to move on from him, rather than try to force him into a spot in the Red Sox rotation or in the pen. So they have decided to part ways with Fitz also. And because of thinking about all of this, the fact that they moved on from a guy who has tasted the majors and one of their top pitching prospects, did the Red Sox win this trade? Now, we really won't know how this trade is going to pan out for the Cardinals until down the road. Whatever happens with Brandon Clarke, is he going to make it to the majors? If he does, is he going to be effective in the majors? That is going to be a big determination of who won this trade. And on the Red Sox end, Sonny Gray needs to pan out in order for the Red Sox to be considered for potentially having won the trade. Because if Sonny Gray goes out there and has a season like Walker Buehler had in 2025, it's going to be a really tough look for the Red Sox that they gave up some good talent for him. But again, it's a league where you have to give to get. And in this case, Craig Breslow, once again, just like he did with the Garrett Crochet trade, showed that he wasn't afraid of moving pieces to add a veteran starter who they know can provide value. And Craig Breslow essentially did mention at one point too that he learned a lot from the trade deadline, where you can't just wait around. Even if another move is coming later, you need to also still be able to make a move when it comes, so that you don't miss out and then have to settle. And at the trade deadline, the Red Sox settling ended up being for Dustin May, because Breslow didn't exactly go about the trade deadline the right way. So now in the offseason, he's approaching things a lot differently. So it's hard to say who won the trade right now. But if the Red Sox get a dominant season out of Sonny Gray, and he's somebody that they can rely on in a playoff game to pitch, then that means that the Red Sox made out very well in this trade. And again, the fact that St. Louis is sending as much money over to the Red Sox as they are is also a huge piece of the return here. And why this doesn't set the Red Sox back from the future is because they still have a lot of good young pieces for pitching. They have Connolly early. They have Peyton Tolley. They have Hunter Dobbins, who's probably going to come back, hopefully healthy, and pitch in the rotation going into 2026. And they still have some good pitchers in their system. They just promoted from AAA to the majors 3 pitchers that they feel confident in can contribute at the major league level next season. So they didn't feel like keeping Brandon Clarke around was 100% necessary when they have other Brandon Clarks in their system, and because he had the command issues. So the Red Sox obviously had some question marks surrounding him, but I have no doubt the talent is there. And if he can get the command issues under wraps, he can definitely be special for the Cardinals. But this was a move that was necessary for the Red Sox. And coming up, what exactly does it look like for the Red Sox starting rotation? If you're looking to score last-minute tickets to any live event, definitely check out Game Time. I just used it to buy Patriots-Giants tickets for tonight. Go Pats. And it's great because it gives you the view from your seat, so you know that it's not obstructed, and you get the best prices, better prices than any other ticketing vendor. And with the World Cup coming back to North America for the first time since 1994, and with 48 teams for the first time ever, it's going to be massive. Getting tickets is the hardest part, but that's why Game Time is clutch, because it finally gives fans a real advantage when it comes to snagging seats. With Game Time, you can track price drops in real time and get alerts when great seats open. So you can buy those tickets the moment they hit the app. It essentially puts the power in your hands and makes going to the World Cup realistic instead of impossible. Take the guesswork out of buying World Cup tickets and every match, concert, or event with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, download the app, make an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Game Time. It really is the best. And thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. We truly here could not do it without you. It means so much that you dedicate so much of your time to continue to listen to this show day in and day out. I really don't know what I would do without any of you loyal listeners. You know who you are, and I know who you are. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, truly. Speaking of the Boston Red Sox and the show and what's going on, the Red Sox did make their first big move of the offseason last week when they traded for St. Louis Cardinals pitcher Sonny Gray in exchange for pitchers Brandon Clarke and Richard Fitts. And Brandon Clarke was one of the Red Sox best pitching prospects, no doubt about it. But I truly do believe that Craig Breslow pushed for the Cardinals to send the Red Sox more money if they wanted Clarke, because Chaim Bloom was probably adamant on the fact that he wanted Brandon Clarke to be included in the trade. So Breslow probably said, okay, we'll give you him if you give us more money back. So I would say that the Red Sox made out pretty well in this trade. And this is significant for a Boston Red Sox team that is ready to go out and compete in 2026 and continue to build off of what they did in 2025. Now, this is a Red Sox team that showed a lot of potential, went to the playoffs in 2025, although they got eliminated in the wild card round by rival Yankees, which was obviously so painful. It's now time to look forward. And how can the Red Sox look forward? By figuring out how they can continue to add pieces to this team to be able to make it a true World Series contending team. So Sonny Gray definitely has upside. He's a pitcher who could provide a lot of value in the Red Sox rotation. The biggest thing with that, though, is the Red Sox cannot go into the 2026 season and bank on him being a #2 starter. He may pitch that well, kind of like Lucas Giolito, who surprised everybody in 2025 and pitched to the ability level of a #2 starter and slotted in just fine behind Garrett Crochet. That could happen. I'm not ruling it out. But the Red Sox can't have the mindset going into the season that 100% is the case and that he is their #2. They have Garrett Crochet, who still definitely is going to be the #1. They have Brian Bayo, who is more of a #3. And then if they slot Sonny Gray in there, that's already better than the options that they could have had for the 4 and 5 starter, because then you're looking at the #5 spot being occupied by maybe either Connolly Early or Hunter Dobbins. And also Connolly Early is a pitcher with a lot of ability. And I'm sure the Cardinals asked about him, but the Red Sox probably felt more comfortable parting ways with Brandon Clarke because they have now seen what Connolly Early can do at the major league level. So they feel confident in the pitcher that they have in him. So they wanted to keep him around. So he could occupy a spot in that rotation. But Sonny Gray definitely gives the rotation a little bit more oomph. He's a veteran who has been around the game a lot, has a winning mentality, and wants to be in Boston. So he essentially, to me, I'm looking at as the Lucas Giolito replacement, but not necessarily as a #2. Not a Giolito replacement in that, oh, he's the #2 starter. Done. More the Lucas Giolito replacement in terms of that veteran presence in the rotation and a guy who is coming off of a good season. So the Red Sox are hoping he has another good season. But if the Red Sox are banking on him being a #2 starter, that could be tough if he doesn't end up being that, because then when he does struggle, it leaves very little room for error. So it still feels like the Red Sox need a definitive #2, because then they can go Garrett Crochet, #2 starter, Brian Bayo, Sonny Gray, and then a #5. That to me is a rotation I can get behind, because then if you have your ace in Garrett Crochet, pitching game 1 of a playoff series, and then you have your lockdown number 2 guy, a Joe Ryan type of pitcher, just throwing his name out there as an example. That's your 1-2 punch, and that's a lethal 1-2 punch. Then you throw Brayan Bello out there for game 3 of a 7-game series, and then if you go with Sonny Gray in game 4, that's a tough starting rotation. That's a starting rotation that can win you a playoff series. But if you're going with a rotation that consists of Garrett Crochet as the number 1, Sonny Gray as the number 2, and Brayan Bello as the number 3, then you get into who would the number 4 starter be in a playoff series, and then things can get a little bit interesting. I'm not saying, again, that Sonny Gray doesn't have the capability of being a number 2 starter, because he no doubt does, especially with that swing and miss stuff that he has. He no doubt can be that. But it's hard to 100% rely on him being that, especially because we do have to keep in mind his age, and pitchers who do get older sometimes do tend to regress a little bit as they get later and later in their career. Obviously, lots of promising signs with Sonny Gray that he can stay healthy, which is good. But the Red Sox do need to keep in mind the fact that he is on the older side. And because of that, they definitely still need that security blanket, take some pressure off of him. He could pitch in the back end of the rotation, and the Red Sox could find a guy who is a no doubt number 2 to fill in behind Crochet, because then you're looking at a rotation that truly could be a World Series rotation. Because if Sonny Gray is the number 4, you're putting a lot less pressure on his arm at his age, and that could be a lot better situation for the Red Sox. So although I feel like this was a good trade for the Boston Red Sox, especially because of the money that they got back in return with Sonny Gray, and the pieces they gave up were practical pieces to give up, because there wasn't really a definitive spot for Richard Fitz and Brandon Clarke. Although a good pitching prospect, definitely has command issues that the Red Sox were a little bit concerned about. It was a logical return that the Cardinals got back. So this was a smart trade by Craig Breslow, a win now trade that he made, but it feels like they still need one more piece in the starting rotation. So I'm really hoping they go out and get it. If they don't get it, they better hope that Sonny Gray definitely pitches to that level of being a number 2. But we'll have to see what happens. The Red Sox do need to make more moves this offseason as it progresses. And will those moves be for a power bat, 2 power bats, another starting pitcher? Time will tell. But thank you, as always, again, for tuning into Locked On Red Sox and making it your first listen of every single day. For your second listen, find the Locked On MLB podcast, where there is no offseason. Sully keeps you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed MLB fan. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So make sure you check that out next. And like I always say, keep the faith, go Red Sox, and I'll catch you on the flip side.